Good morning. I am super excited about the sermon this morning. I was kind of bummed when Jason said we were all dismissed. I was like, worship was good, but I'm not ready to be done. I want to talk about God's word for a minute or two, if that's all right. Yeah. Good morning for those who are watching online. We're glad you could join us virtually. How many of you guys have ever seen the Netflix show Nailed It? Anyone ever seen that show? I know it's not like super popular yet. Okay, a couple hands. Here's the deal. Contestants have to recreate what a professional has done for a cake. So they'll have a professional cake, and then non-professionals have to recreate. So I'm going to show you some side-by-sides to show you the difference between the professional cake and then the non-professional cake. Slightly different, slightly different. Next. Oh, yeah. I think we have another one. Oh. All right. I love cake, but I'm not eating any cake that looks like it needs therapy. Some of those look like they need therapy. When I heard about the show, though, I thought about Jesus versus the followers of Jesus. Jesus versus the followers of Jesus. We don't always look the same, do we? Just because we're a Christian doesn't mean we're always Christ-like. Jesus is Swiss meringue buttercream. We're Cool Whip left in a hot car. For example, Jesus is described as gentle. Everyone say gentle. Oh, you guys said that so gently. I'm so proud of you. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 through 30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. Anyone feel that way lately? Weary and burdened. And I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am, everyone say it, gentle and humble in heart. And you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Notice when Jesus gives his bio, he doesn't lead with miracle worker, storm stopper, inventor of loaves and fishes catering. Instead, he says, I am gentle. Gentle. The Gospels only record 5 times where Jesus becomes angry. We talked about the temple last week where he has his angry moment. But if you calculate all of that, that is only 2% of the stories we have of Jesus. Only 2% of the stories we have of Jesus is him angry. Some of us reach 2% before finishing our morning coffee. He had the power of a lion, but he carried himself like a lamb. He had the power of a lion, but he carried himself like a lamb. Paul echoes this in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1. By the humility and gentleness of Christ, I appeal to you. The gentleness of Christ, I appeal to you. Jesus was gentle, but his followers have not always done a stellar job of reflecting his gentleness. For example, Carrie A. Nation, that's her name, in the 1800s made it her mission to fight against alcohol. Notice this picture. She has a Bible in one hand and an axe in the other. She described herself as a bulldog running along at the feet of Jesus, barking at what he doesn't like. How's that for a job description? She became infamous for vandalizing bars, often accompanied by hymn-singing women and musicians. She would march into the bar and sing and pray while smashing bar fixtures in stock with a hatchet. Nothing goes with Amazing Grace like a hatchet. Amazing. Psh. I've been to church. Put that picture back up. I've been to churches where it looked like Carrie was on the greeting team. Has anyone been to that church? It looks more, yeah, absolutely. It didn't feel very welcoming. It felt more like a bouncer. Christians can be really good at beating people up using the Bible as a weapon. We can do a better job singing Amazing Grace than showing Amazing Grace. We can do a better job singing Amazing Grace than showing Amazing Grace. It's almost like when you go get your car washed. How many of you have ever done this? You get your car washed, and all of a sudden you notice how dirty all the other cars are. Forgetting that your car was just dirty before you went through that wash. We forget the grace that has been shown to us through the blood of Christ. Anne Lamott once said, "You can safely assume you've created God in your own image when it turns out that God hates all the same people you do." I'm going to let that sit for a minute. A few years ago, I preached a sermon. Let me make it personal. A few years ago, I preached a sermon on the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. I asked the congregation, are those the words that people use to describe you? To those who are closest to you, your wife, your husband, your kids, your coworkers, do they describe you by those words? Because those are the fruit. The longer we are in the Spirit, the more we should reflect the fruit of the Spirit. And as I was preaching, I was convicted by my own sermon, asking that question, would my kids describe me as gentle? At the time, I was on a steroid for my heart, and I had the anger of the Incredible Hulk, but not the size of the Incredible Hulk. Could you imagine me as the Incredible Hulk? You laugh a little too freely. After that sermon, I set up an appointment with a therapist the next day. I didn't want my parenting style to be Hulk smash. I wanted to be known for gentleness. If Jesus was gentle, then his followers are supposed to be gentle as well. Consider the thousands of people he gently touched, bringing healing to their bodies and their lives. Matthew chapter 20, verse 34 says, Jesus had compassion. Everyone say compassion. On them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and they followed him. The word compassion grows out of the Hebrew word for womb. It's a picture of a mother's care for her unborn child. While Jesus had the callous hands of a carpenter, he used them to feed the hungry, to heal the sick, to pick up his followers when they failed, like Peter when he's sinking in the water. I received a call earlier this week. I had to rush to the hospital, and I got to pray with a lady who used to attend here, who was taking her last breath here and her first breath in eternity. The presence of God was so sweet and so gentle in that hospital room. Secular Greek used the word gentle to describe soothing medicine. Think of Mary Poppins' wise words, "A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down." A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. A wise pharmacist mixes the medicine with a little flavor like cherry or grape, but not bubble gum because that's nasty. When my wife was pregnant with our first kid, she had to drink straight fish oil, and she gagged every time. I want to say I never laughed because that's not gentle, but I'm near the altar and lying is a sin. In the Greek version of the Old Testament, the word gentleness appears 12 times. And it's 11 times in the New Testament. It gets translated differently. In the Old Testament, it's often translated as humble. In the New Testament, meekness. But they both mean gentleness, which requires humility. The philosopher Aristotle labeled gentleness as the golden mean. Everyone say golden mean. Picture one ditch, a hair trigger temper. Also known as I commented before I finished reading the post. Talking about that kind of temper. And on the other ditch is spineless passivity. The spiritual gift of saying nothing ever. Right down the center is Christ-like gentleness. Strong enough to act, soft enough to heal. A person complained that disabled parking should only be valid during the business hours of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. The person says, I cannot see any reason why people with genuine disabilities would be out beyond these times. A disabled person wrote back, we are disabled, not werewolves. Jesus was gentle. My favorite example of this is when Jesus echoes Isaiah in Matthew chapter 12, verse 20. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not snuff out, till he has brought justice through to victory. These metaphors are beautiful. Anyone who has ever walked through a marsh has seen reeds. Here's an example. There you go. They're skinny and frail. They look like they skip leg day. In the ancient world, they were often used for mats and for boats. Unfortunately, they are easily damaged and prone to breakage. When a person was looking for reeds, they would discard the ones that folded like a cheap lawn chair and keep the healthy ones. Lamps in the first century, I'll show you a picture, were a bowl with oil and a wick in the middle. Once it started to smolder, the wick was no longer usable and needed to be discarded. It would smoke up the room like burnt popcorn. Both of them are pictures of broken, weak things that are often discarded. Jesus says that I don't ignore the hurting or pass by those who are burnt out. Jesus doesn't treat us like a Temu knockoff. Instead, he gently restores us. As a man, I don't get really excited about the word gentle. As I was writing this, I was like, gentleness. I don't really want to talk about gentleness. I like having calloused hands, watching football. I like movies where the plot is mostly explosions accompanied by subtitles that say dramatic music. But meekness isn't weakness. The word that is used for gentle means power that is under control, used to benefit someone else. Power that is under control to benefit someone else. It was the word that was used for a stallion that had been tamed. It is just as powerful as it was in the wild, but now that power is under control for good. Jesus was powerful. He had the authority to boss people around. He could call down all the angels. He could force them into submission, but he was gentle. He motivated rather than dominated. He motivated rather than dominated. That's the way we are called to handle the people that we meet throughout the course of a day. The barista at the coffee shop who messes up our order again and again. The waiter at the restaurant who doesn't fill our drink fast enough. The person who is still stopped even though the light turned green. There's a new time called the honkosecond. The amount of time it takes you to honk that horn. The person on speakerphone in public sharing their medical history. The grocery shopper blocking the aisle to compare 47 salsas. And even our neighbor who is proudly supporting that other political party. We're called to handle them with care. 1 Peter 3:3-4. Your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, something that gets ignored a lot these days. The unfading beauty of a what? Gentle and quiet spirit, which is of what? Great worth in God's sight. Great worth in God's sight. Notice gentleness is of great worth in the eyes of God. What makes God happy? Gentleness. But we're not always gentle. When my youngest was 6 months old, he was not gentle. He loved to pull his brother's hair. He'd laugh and they'd cry. The worst is he would grab my beard and do pull-ups with it. We live in a culture of violence. When I was growing up, the video games were much more tame. With Mortal Kombat, you had to put in a blood code for it to be bloody. Now there's Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, and 1,000 zombie games. We hear it in our music. We see it in our movies. Did you know that 90% of movies, 68% of video games, and 60% of TV shows show violence? Surrounded by it. Beyond the violence in our streets is the violence in our hearts. Hostility, hatred, despair, and indifference are at the heart of a growing culture of violence. We hear it in our conversation when we constantly yell, threaten, and make sarcastic comments. Think of Gordon Ramsay. This lamb is so undercooked, it's following Mary to school. This fish is so raw, it's looking for Nemo. This is so salty, you could preserve a mummy with it. All direct quotes from him. And yet we're challenged to be gentle. Philippians 4:5 says, let your gentleness be evident to who? All. How many of you wish there was a footnote? Don't raise your hand. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. As Christians, we should be some of the most gentle people on the planet. Paul once said in 1 Thessalonians 2:7, we were gentle among you like a mother caring for her little children. Is that how you treat the people around you? Is that how you treat the people on social media? Do you treat them with the gentleness you would use with a baby? Puritan leader Jonathan Edwards said, all who are truly godly and are real disciples of Christ have a gentle spirit in them. Gentleness is so crucial because the world is not gentle. The media uses anger. Birds of a feather get angrier together. On average, the news media is only 6% positive, which means that it is intentionally 94% negative. People get stuck doom scrolling. Some are experiencing what psychologists call headline stress disorder, where the world might engage in politics or other subjects with hostility, violence, resentment, or forcefulness. God's people need to deal with sin with truth and spiritual warfare with the graciousness and the compassionate kindness of Christ. The Spirit is referred to as a dove. Jesus is referred to as the Lamb. God is referred to as the Heavenly Father. When Erica got up and says, I forgive the person who killed my husband, do you know that the actor Tim Allen went on social media and says, I have been holding on to resentment against the man who killed my father for decades, and because she said that, I forgive him now. Gentleness is powerful. It's powerful. The church needs to act gentle when the world is mental. Here are 3 practical steps we need to take this week. 3 practical steps we need to take this week. We need to be gentle with our inner talk, our self-talk. We need to be gentle with our inner talk. Some of us have a very toxic inner dialogue. Anybody? We have a very toxic inner dialogue. Our thoughts sound like this. Note to self, lower the bar, then trip over it anyway. Today's goals, number 1, exist. Number 2, feel bad about existing. I'm not spiraling. I'm doing interpretive dance in my brain. I was looking in the mirror the other day when I caught the top of my head at just the right angle. There were pockets of skin like islands off the coast of Japan. My wife's short, and most of my friends are short, so none of them have ever noticed. I took a picture with my phone just in case the mirror was wrong. Come to find out, my barber has been doing a comb-over without telling me. My inner critic said, I look like a before photo for Rogaine. I look like I'm being raptured one hair at a time. Some of us talk to ourselves like a troll in the comment section of the online. Listen to the way David talks to himself. Why so downcast, O my soul? Put your hope in God. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Be strong and take heart. David doesn't just listen to his feelings, he leads his feelings. He doesn't just listen to his feelings, he leads his feelings. If you wouldn't say it to your kid, don't say it to yourself. If you wouldn't say it to your kid, don't say it to yourself. Second, gentleness means volume control. Some people can't make a point without raising their voice. They talk like someone left the all caps lock button on. Anybody know someone like that? Don't look at them, but you know they just can't make a point. But once you start yelling, people become defensive. When my wife and I first got married, we decided we wouldn't be a yelling family. One of the best decisions of our lives. We have successfully raised 3 kids without being a yelling family. Studies show kids who experience regular yelling face a 64% higher risk of poor mental health as adults. 64% higher just because of being in an environment of constant yelling. How many of you love it when someone yells at you? Nobody. Odd. No one likes it. Nobody says, if we're not yelling, we're not gelling. Yelling activates the body's fight or flight system. Heart rate, blood pressure, and stress hormones spike. As the volume increases, the listening decreases. As the volume increases, the listening decreases. A verse everyone should memorize before starting a family or creating a social media account is Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The Gospels never describe Jesus as yelling. The Gospels never describe Jesus as yelling. He only raises his voice at a couple strategic moments to emphasize a point. One of them is at Lazarus' tomb. Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Commanding a man to come back from the dead. Raising your voice is appropriate then. And at the cross, he cried out in a loud voice, "Before giving up his spirit, into your hands I commit my spirit." Jesus got his point across without having to yell. If volume 1 arguments, toddlers would be Supreme Court justices. Mr. Rogers never yelled on his show. He believed yelling scared children unnecessarily. Instead, he'd intentionally lower his voice to draw kids in. He would lower his voice to draw kids in. Do you know who does yell? Monkeys. Monkeys scream to establish dominance. Do you want to be a follower of a monkey or a follower of Christ? Your choice. Last, we need to restore others gently. Galatians 6:1. If someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should do what? Restore that person gently. Gentleness doesn't mean ignoring the sin. Jesus says to the woman caught in adultery, "I'm not going to judge you, but go and sin no more." Gentleness doesn't mean ignoring sin, but handling it in a way that heals rather than shames. On September 5th, 2025, at a Phillies versus Marlins game, Harrison Bader hit a home run. A father, Drew Feltwell, caught the ball and gave it to his son, Lincoln, who was celebrating his 10th birthday. What a great father-son moment. Shortly afterward, a woman nearby claimed the ball was hers, saying it had landed near her, therefore she had rights to it. She confronted Drew, grabbed his arm, and demanded the ball back, all being caught on TV. The father, wanting to de-escalate the situation in front of his son, eventually took the ball from his 10-year-old's birthday son's hands and handed it to the woman. She proudly walked away with her prized ball. After the game, the team tried to rectify the moment in some small way. The boy got a goodie bag from the Marlins representatives. He got to meet Harrison Bader and was given a signed bat. Drew's decision to give up the ball, though painful, to protect his son from further conflict is an illustration of gentleness, turning away wrath, rather than allowing the situation to heighten and grow worse. The internet, on the other hand, called her Phillies Karen. I love Karens, but that's what the internet did. They made a Phillies Karen Halloween costume. There are pictures of her holding a baseball saying, "My precious." And then it went viral, and there were tons of pictures of her taking other things from famous things, like a potluck deviled egg and the Mona Lisa and all these other things. Here's the deal. The internet is great at shaming and canceling. That can't be the way of the church. We have been called to be gentle like Jesus. On the show Nailed It, the cakes come out wobbly, lopsided, a little crispy on the edges. That's us. The good news, Jesus doesn't throw away failed bakes. He remakes them. He restores them. He renews them. He's gentle with people who collapse. And how many of you are glad that Jesus has been gentle with you? How many of you have deserved for him to kick you in the pants over the field goal post, and he chose to be gentle with you? And yet, why is it we struggle so hard to be gentle with others? When Jesus has been so good to us. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was a drug addict. I was an alcoholic. I threw my life away. I deserved jail and hell. How could I dare stand before someone else and treat them any less than the way Jesus has treated with gentleness? Gentleness. How about this week? We all fast social media. Some of you just died a little bit. You're like, whoa, Pastor Dan, come on. I'll give up coffee before that. Whoa, come on. But what if for 1 week we gave up social media? Guess what? The world will continue to go around, even if you're not aware of it. But what if we gave it up to get away from the world's harsh toxicity? We detoxed for a moment. We repent for where we've been harsh and prayerfully consider, God, how can we begin to show gentleness the way you show gentleness? Amen? Worship team, if you could come back up, we're going to sing one more song of worship. You can still play your games. That's fine. I'm not checking on you. But the altar is open this morning. And I just feel like if you've been carrying around some bitterness, you've been carrying around some harshness, you've got some anger that you're having a hard time letting go of, the altar is open during this worship song. You can come up and spend some time with Jesus. He said, my yoke is easy. My burden's light. Help me carry that load with you. Spend some time repenting, allowing God to cleanse your soul so that we can go out of here with an attitude of forgiveness, an attitude of gentleness. And don't forget, we have baptisms next week, so make sure you sign up on your way out. Prayer team will be up here after the worship song if you want someone to pray with you. Love you guys. Let's stand and worship.